Coming up on this episode of the Ministry of Guitar, what you didn't know it takes to get 10,000 subscribers, my updated thoughts on the new SE PRS NF3, and finally, is Taylor Swift really the 8th best guitarist of the last 20 years? That's what we're going to get into. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. My name is Utkarsh Mohan. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please do like, subscribe and share. It really helps grow the audience. And speaking of growing the audience, this channel reached an important milestone just a day ago. We crossed 10,000 subscribers. So I thought this was a good time to, because I haven't talked, of course I keep talking about myself, but I haven't talked much about YouTube and this entire thing. So this video will be covering a little bit of that. If you want to skip ahead to the NF3 SE and Taylor Swift, please, I'm going to give you the timestamps over here. But let me tell you a little bit about this thing. Now the thing is, 2023, 2024 is probably one of the worst times to try and become a content creator. Especially on YouTube or anything, because saturation of the attempt for human attention is at all-time highs, right? Everybody's competing for your attention. Advertisements, people, reels, TikTok, platforms. It's a crazy time. I don't think the human attention has ever been under attack as it is right now. So trying to become a content creator in this environment is a little bit of a silly thing to do. And honestly, for those of you who do know, I was working in the corporate world. I was working there for 15 years. I started work in 2008 after graduating from university as an engineer. So for those of you who don't know, I guess this part of the video is a little bit about me. I'm originally from India. I studied in India till I was 18, till my A-level equivalent. I tried really hard to get into India's top university, which is called IIT. And I didn't succeed. It was very difficult. It's like 10 times more difficult to get into that than Harvard. I'm not joking. It's that difficult because of the sheer population of India. So then I came to Singapore not reluctantly, but it was like okay, I didn't make it to what I wanted to. This is like a consolation prize. Turned out Singapore was much better than I could have expected. And even though I had a little bit of a tough time getting a job right after graduating, the whole story there, I did eventually end up working for the Singapore government for 1 year, which was very instructive because this is when you guys look at Singapore today, it's one of the richest countries in the world. It's highly developed, but it wasn't always the case. And one of the reasons why it got so well developed, of course, it had a great leader, but it had a very clear strategy of becoming a hub for companies to establish their headquarters and to attract investment into the country. And the organization who did that was the EDB, so I was part of that. Then I joined after a year. I wanted to become a car designer actually, but I met a car designer. They told me that, hey, you should do marketing because marketing people get to make decisions. And then the only company that hired an engineer as for marketing was an American company called Procter & Gamble. So I joined them in 2009. Started working for one of their most iconic brands called Gillette. And I kept working on that brand in multiple different forms, in one way or the other, for 15 years, till I left, 14 years, till I left in September 2023. So, September 2023, I've left. Now, the reason I've left is I've come to a reasonable level financially. I'm not saying that I am perfectly financially independent. I'm not. But I am, and that's only because I live in the world's most expensive country. Any other place in the world, I would be financially independent. But here, even if you have $3 million, you can't say that, hey, I'm perfectly done. At the same time, I'm at the level where I have learned what I need to learn from the corporate world. And I've reached a level that I've seen what it is. And I can see what the next 10, 15 years pans out. And though that looks financially very attractive, I mean, this is literally when you think of people, right? When you want to go from the managerial class to the quote-unquote elite class where you're earning millions of dollars a year. That path is there, but it does come at the price of potentially selling your soul, which for me, the person who always wanted to do creative stuff like design, and I forgot to mention I was also You guys know this. I've been a musician since university. It was just I reached that point. I reached the maximum where I could be like, I'm okay with this. I'm not saying I won't go back to a company, but where I was in 2023 was, I think I'm done for now. So then I was like, what am I going to do next? Do I want to actually pursue my passion for music? Do I want to pursue my passion for art? Again, something you guys don't know about me, but one of the things that is my original skill set, so to speak, is I was a bit of a child prodigy when it came to sketching. I could sketch portraits and stuff when I was like 3-4 years old. That was also a big part of me. But growing up in India, where you don't have options to be a creative, because in a poor country, you try to be an artist, you will literally starve on the street. It's not a metaphor. You will literally starve on the street. So I had to, of course, do all of the, study hard and all of that stuff. But in 2023 September, I was for the first time in a position where I could actually, I had, as I told you, I'm very transparent about these numbers, because it's not a question of trying to show off anything. It's just trying to show you the decision making. So with a reasonable net worth of about $3 million, not enough to fully be financially independent in this very, very, very expensive country. You could ask, why do I continue to stay here? Well, I have friends here, family here. My wife is working here as a realtor. So I can't just get up and go away, right? Your roots are where you are. And I've been in this country for 15 years, and I'm a citizen of this country, not to mention I'm Singaporean now. Because I do really believe in the country, and it's really a pinnacle of excellence in this sometimes crazy world. So I'm not going to leave just like that. So yeah, I'm not fully financially independent, but I have the freedom to really, I could not work for the next 10 years and I'll be fine. As an example, it's a different matter. There's an opportunity cost given by my qualifications. So what do? I sincerely thought about pursuing music properly. But then there were 2 or 3 things, and I'm going to make a future video on this, on why I don't want to be a musician in 2024. I will make this video. But just to give you a quick preview of it, the current state of the music industry, the current state of the attention economy is not something that I found attractive. I'm an idealist musician, Think of something like, okay, music can change the world and all of that. But I know that now, having been through the real world, the real corporate world, the real world of business, the real world of finance, that is a fool's errand at best in today's world. There was a time the popular music had its moment, I think in the 1960s to some extent, but it's not really possible to do that. And not to mention, today to be a musician, as I've said in another video, you really need to be a salesman. And I have been a salesman for my entire career, right? In corporate, well, I'm working in marketing, but effectively what you're doing is you're selling your ideas, you're selling your strategies. It's constant selling. I've been selling constantly for 15 years. And I don't want to start now selling myself on social media. And I dislike social media, ironic given that I'm doing content creation. So I was like, no, I don't think I am at the position yet that I feel that I want to. I'm not saying it is not music that I want to make, and I did end up actually making a lot of music. It's sitting out there. I haven't promoted it because I'm waiting for my audience to be a little bit larger. Then I will promote it. But right now, I was like, no, I don't think that's what I want to do. I've always had a YouTube channel. I've had it for 7-8 years, but I haven't paid much attention to it. I make a video every maybe 3-4 weeks or something. I've had it since 2015. So from 2015 to 2023, October, the channel had just maybe 1,000 subscribers. I made a video every now and then, didn't take it too seriously. So in October, I wasn't sure what to do. I went for a trip, actually, one very, very interesting part of India, near the Himalayan mountains. India has the Himalayan mountains, some of the largest, not some of the largest, tallest mountains in the world. Mount Everest is there, but there are other mountains that are also famous. So I was waiting over there. We were trying to see the mountain range from the hotel, from this town, but it's very difficult to see. And we tried for 5 days, we couldn't see it. And finally, on the last day, we saw it. And the last day, very, very funny thing happened. The moment I could see the mountain, and this is a very iconic mountain, it's called Kanchenjunga. The moment I could see that mountain, the moment I could see it, I immediately got I've been waiting for my PRS private stock, the purple one. You guys may have seen it. There's a video I'll put here. I've been waiting for that guitar for almost 2 years. The moment I saw the mountain, I saw the guitar. It literally popped up because my dealer sent it to me, sent me a photo. Hey, here's the guitar. It's here. Exact same moment. I saw the mountain 5 a.m. in the morning because you have to wake up super early, and then it's earlier. It's not that early in Indonesia where my dealer was. So I was like, oh, and that's it. I saw it, and then I was like, I was still, in that whole journey of thinking about what am I going to be doing? Should I do music? Should I do art? And I was thinking about the YouTube channel, but I didn't want to be just another YouTuber trying to self-promote, trying to earn money by advertising or something. I'll talk about this entire business model in a second. But then that guitar popped up just when I saw the mountain. And by the way, watching that mountain is the quasi, I don't know what to describe it. It's a crazy experience. You cannot imagine the splendor of something like that. Mother Nature can have certain splendor in certain moments. It was one of those moments. And then in that moment, I was like, okay, maybe I should do something to do with guitars. Maybe I should do something to do with YouTube. And I posted that video when I reached back home. And that video suddenly, my channel was very small. It was doing like maybe 200 views a month or something. And suddenly it jumped dramatically through that video. It wasn't a particularly great video. If you look at the numbers today, it's compared to what my channel is right now, it wasn't anything. But I was like, okay, maybe I should pursue this. Now to the crazy part, which a lot of us don't realize. First things first it is in this day and era of this attention economy, it is critically difficult to actually make any progress, and it is difficult to understand whether you really have value to add in the space. And I also wasn't sure what my particular value add was because I didn't want to do something for the sake of it. I don't want to be just a me too copying somebody, whatever. So my initial thought was I wanted to do something similar to, like, say, what Autocar does for cars, because I'm a big car nut. I grew up reading car magazines. They make proper Autocar road tests. So I've done a few videos that are very much more detailed, not like Trogley where you go in to open up the guitar, but more like very structured videos. I did do those, but they didn't really get too much traction. They're there on my channel. You can check them out. I think the people who saw them liked them a lot, but most of the people didn't bother clicking on it. And I'll talk a little bit about this whole clicking thing. Then one day I was just, I was constantly trying. Then I thought maybe the niche is think of Jay Leno's garage, because I have this crazy guitar collection of 150 guitars. And I really enjoy watching Jay Leno's garage, him going through each of the cars. So I thought maybe I should do something similar for my guitar. So I was literally making a video a day, trying to with different guitars, just kind of running through it, unboxing it. Some growth, but nothing particularly great. And by the way, all this while you're doing this is October, November, December, making a video almost. So I think I made about 30, 40 videos in that period. I grew from maybe 1,000 subscribers to 1,500, like nothing, like not even big enough to get monetized or anything. I was like, what am I doing? But I was like, okay, let me keep trying. Let me give this thing a year at least to see what happens with it. And psychologically in my head, I had a target that, hey, I started in October 2023. By October 2024, I should get to 10,000. Otherwise, there's no point doing this, right? I should pursue something else, right? I'm not in need of spreading my face on the internet. But in fact, one of the reasons I didn't want to do this is I didn't want to be famous or anything, because I think fame can be a little bit tiresome. So that was one of the things. Then what happened is I bought a new camera. I think it's called a DJI. It's called whatever it's called. It's called DJI something 3, Osmo 3 or something. I can't remember the name. I'll put it here. And I was testing it. And I was just testing it, holding it. And when I was testing it, I just made a quick conversation. And the thing is, I had never made a video without me holding a guitar. Like I think James Hetfield said it, that a guitar is like a crutch, right? If you're not entirely confident that, like for singers, right? He said he didn't want to sing without a guitar because he feels, and even my band singer, who's a guitarist, not the female singer, the guy. The female singer is an amazing singer. She has no doubt she can sing well. She's an amazing singer. But the guy who kind of goes back and forth on whether he thinks he can sing well, he's like, I don't want to sing without a guitar in my because I feel that people will judge me as a singer. But when I have a guitar, people will be like, oh, he plays the guitar, so they will be slightly less judgmental. The internet is pretty judgmental anyway. So I never made a video without a guitar. But I decided to just talk into the camera. I put that video out there, and it was the most successful out of everything I had done so far. And what I found is I was essentially giving my perspective. I am, of course, a guitarist, a musician, but the perspective really was of, having worked in business, having run very iconic brands, knowing what the real world is, knowing stripped of the veils of idealism, because I've seen the real thing. It was about Gibson. I made a few videos on Gibson. I made a few videos on the music industry. And I found that somehow that was unique, because most people in my career, in my professional position, firstly, they are not doing YouTube. They are busy trying to become one of the elite, become the kind where you get multi-million-dollar bonuses. I was nowhere near them. But I was on that path. If I had really stuck to it, and I was pretty good at it, because I was constantly top rated at my job, pretty much maybe 12 out of 15 years. So I could have gone there, but most people were on that path. But for me, that path was a little bit too much of, really, you've seen it in my videos, right? I've talked about exploitative capitalism. I've talked about forcing consumption where consumption is not needed. I felt that I did not feel at ease with the vision, with the politicking, with all of that. So that's why most people like that, some of them make their peace with it. Maybe their lifestyle inflates too much. Whatever happens, maybe they have, whatever is the reason, they continue on that path. Maybe their ego wants them to become a big CEO or whatever. But luckily, I'm a bit bereft of those things. So I quit that. But I still have the perspective of somebody who is then going to become because if you look at the size of business that I was operating on, it's a business that is the same size as Gibson. If I think Gibson's maybe slightly bigger right now. I'm not really sure, but it's in that range. It's in the similar size as Gibson and Fender. So I was leading marketing for a business that is the same size as Gibson or Fender. Obviously, you know a thing or two. So that perspective, I realized, isn't really there on the internet. I didn't think of that as my differentiation, but I realized it when I thought about it. And then I thought, okay, there is value add. This perspective can interest people, can potentially provide people with a perspective that they didn't have earlier. So I leaned into it. I made quite a few videos based on that. And the other thing I also realized was that having owned and owning so many nice, expensive guitars had accidentally made me into somewhat of a guitar. I don't want to say I know guitars. Let's just put it this way. I don't know them as a luthier. I don't know them as a technician. But as a consumer of the product, as a person who appreciates it, I know what's a good guitar and what's a bad guitar. I know what to look for. I know when I look at something, I can identify it. And it's just the process of the last 7-8 years of somehow kind of, I had a little bit of I would say it was a bit of a guitar addiction, which I will also talk about in another video. But that guitar addiction had led me to become somewhat of a knowledge base in that. So that particular thing interspersed pretty well with this knowledge of the corporate world. And that's kind of my niche. Now, I realize it's been a long time in this conversation. You can have all of these things that make you different. So I was like, okay, let me pursue this. But the YouTube game is very, very brutal. The pace of content, I was looking at my numbers. 150 videos since I restarted the YouTube thing. So over 150 videos over 7 months. Sometimes it's at a rate of basically 3 to 4 videos a week. 150 videos, that's just videos. Shorts is another 50 videos. So 200 videos over. It's crazy, the pace of this thing. And the other thing that's extremely brutal is click-through rate, which is what happens is the amount of views you get is highly correlated to how many people click on it and how long they watch it. And the click-through rate, the attention economy, oh my God, it is like you can make a nice, beautiful, what you feel very proud of, wonderful thumbnail. But if you do not incite curiosity from people, even if they like you, you are not going to get all the time and effort you've put into making a video will go to waste. So when you see a lot of relatively, I don't want to say outrageous, but relatively attention grabbing content, realize that it has become the price to pay. If you cannot have attention grabbing thumbnail and attention grabbing thumbnail and title, nobody's going to watch your video. You can be idealistic about it and say, I'm an artist, I don't believe in this. Now, there's the other side where you literally just put crap, which has got nothing to do with the video, just to grab attention. That also doesn't work, because if you just put a attention grabbing thumbnail but the video doesn't deliver, you're not gonna do well either. So the trick is, how do you make an attention grabbing thumbnail and title which is then satisfied by your video? And that process is very difficult. I think it's actually, I got new respect actually for people who do this well. Having worked on many marketing campaigns, marketing campaigns, we come up with something, but there is no actual test till you actually launch it. So you think you've done a good job. Here, you test it, you do it, you test it, immediately you know whether it's working or not. So what I'm saying is the time and effort put on this is very, very high, especially if you look at the return. So for me, I'm okay with it because I have the luxury of being able to do this. And as I said, I've given myself about a year. But one of the things I do have in mind is that this particular effort needs to be worth the time. I'm not making any changes right now. I'm more still concentrating. 10,000 subscribers is nothing. I'm concentrating on continuing to get better, continuing to deliver a better thing. I will disproportionately invest my time and efforts in this particular venture. But what I have on my mind, because I am, at the end of the day, I am a what's the word for it? I believe that people should be rewarded and adequately compensated for their work. This has been a constant theme of all my videos, right? When I talk about how musicians get exploited, etc. I believe in that very strongly. So I need to find a way to make this particular venture in that way. Right now, the time and effort, if you were to multiply the time I've put into this versus what I was earning, let's forget about that. I'm just saying that, yes, I need to find a way to make this. I don't want to be reliant on ads. I want to maintain independence. I want to do that. I think the only person I've seen, not in the YouTube space, in general, in the content creation space, who's done that reasonably well, whether you agree with him or not, is Sam Harris. He's got a very interesting business model. So that's something for me to consider maybe much further down the roads. But I'm putting this here as a marker in time at 10,000 subscribers, so that in the future, whenever I do decide to explore a different kind of a business plan, this is the marker in time to so that it's not entirely a surprise to everybody. But don't worry, at this point in time, nothing's going to change. I'm going to keep learning, keep trying to make better content, and keep disproportionately investing my time. All right, I think that's all. This is already 20 minutes plus. Let's move on to the next topic. Now, this I promise is going to be the last time I talk about the SE NF3. And I'll tell you why, because it's a very strange thing. I took out my NF3 because my house was undergoing renovation. So I put most of the guitars in storage, other than what you see behind me. The NF3 was not one of the guitars kept here. It was kept in storage. Then I had a meetup with my friends, and one of my friends said, "Oh, I really want to try the NF3 again," because he tried it earlier a year ago. We talked about what an amazing guitar it is. NF3 has always been an amazing guitar. So I got it back out just so that he could try it. Then after they left, the NF3 was sitting behind me. Is it still here? I think it's hanging behind me somewhere. Oh, it's there. So then I started playing it, and I started remembering what an amazing guitar it is, even though I usually play 7-string, 8-string. And then I was like, I have to make a video about this because it really is the guitar that is so amazing, but no one talks about it, which is why I made this video. When I made that video, literally the same day somebody commented, "Oh, a dealer has leaked SE version of the NF3. Dealer has leaked SE version of the NF3. And I was like, what? And then 3 days later, I covered it in my Ask Me Anything. And then 2 days later, everything erupted. The whole YouTube ecosystem of promotion interrupted with the new SE NF3. And I was like, wow, what a coincidence. Which is why I gave my quick reactions. And I also finished making the video, what makes the NF3 great, the original NF3. Now I want to get my hands on the NF3, the SE NF3. I will do a comparison code versus this whenever it comes in Singapore. I checked with my local dealer. It's coming in July. Singapore is very late compared to the US. So my channel is never going to be the first place where you see a guitar. And nor do I intend to go down the YouTube rabbit hole of making it good with the manufacturer so they send me the guitars. I can just buy them and sell them. I'm okay. I think financially, especially if I find a way to make this channel more financially sustainable, I'm very happy to do that. But so the SE NF3, I'll see it then, but I want to give a few more thoughts because a lot of people have asked me this question in the comment section. And the question that they've asked me is, what about the Swamp Ash Special? What about the CE24 Satin? Where does this fit in? Which one is better? What should you get? So I'm going to just answer the question on comparing it versus the other SEs. And again, remember, I'm making assumptions about it based on my knowledge of actually playing the other SEs, the PRS SE quality currently, and the core NF3. The big question mark is how do the narrow fields actually sound? But for the sake of this, I'm going to assume it sounds fairly similar to what I have on my core. The Swamp Ash Special is an interesting one. On the face of it, it is very similar to what you would think of the NF3. It does single coil sounds very well. It has a Swamp Ash body, so it gives it a very Strat vibe. It does humbucker sounds as well. Now, my friend, the same one who wanted to try the NF3, has an exceptional Swamp Ash Special, a chord one. One of the best guitars I've ever played, actually. He's given it now to his brother-in-law or someone in Hong Kong, so it's sitting in Hong Kong. But in case he brings it back here, I may ask him again. I don't know. I may even buy it off him. We compared the Swamp Ash Special and the NF3 extensively in our sessions. What we found is the NF3 does not sound like a Strat. I've talked about this. The NF3 sounds like a single coil with a little bit of a mid boost in a good way. That it's still very articulate, yet it has a bit of body. A very usable sound that can morph into single coil if you remove the volume, and it can morph into humbucker if you add a bit of gain. The Swamp Ash Special, especially in split modes, because it has a single coil in between, so the single coil in conjunction with the humbucker. At least the core Swamp Ash Special has given the most convincing Strat sound from a non-Strat guitar that we've experienced. We've tried multiple guitars. Nothing sounds like a Strat but a Strat. And we were looking at it and we were like, what is going on with this Swamp Ash Special that it's sounding so much like a Strat? So what I'm saying is, if you really want a super authentic single coil sound yet have a humbucker, that's where the Swamp Ash Special comes in. It's a very, very bright sounding guitar. The NF3 is not as bright sounding as a Swamp Ash Special. So you need to see. My personal preference with my ears is I prefer the NF3 because I'm a humbucker player anyway. I do like to have a nice thin sound sometimes for articulation, but I'm not that single coil connoisseur. And most single coil connoisseurs don't want a humbucker guitar. But the Swamp Ash Special is an interesting one where you don't really compromise too much on the single coilness, but you get normal humbucker sounds. So that's that. So that would be the difference in my opinion. The CE24 Satin and the NF3, again, different things for different people. But the CE24 Satin for me is you just want an amazing guitar, the best value for money guitar out there. Just get a CE24 Satin. Don't overthink whether it's sounding exactly like this or that. It is just an amazing guitar. The satin finish and the bolt-on construction helps it reach a lower price point. 24 frets, you may or may not like it, but it really doesn't really, especially if you're a newer guitarist. If there was somebody who was buying a new guitar, a decent new guitar for the first time today, say someone who's been playing guitar for a year or something, and they may have started off on somebody's practice, borrowed something from somewhere, and they wanted to buy themselves the first decent guitar, CE24 Satin all the way. That's how I look at it. NF3 is also a good shout, but I would just tell them just go with the CE24 Satin, save the $100 or $200, unless you really like the NF3 or something else. If you are really just neutral between all of them, just get the CE24 Satin. It'll just do the job. All right, so that's on the NF3. We'll cover more once I actually get my hands on the guitar. Let's move on to the third topic, which is Taylor Swift, who I keep talking about because Taylor Swift is an interesting phenomenon, right? I was going back, if you remember the beginning of my Ask Me Anything, I said about why I don't want to be a musician in 2023-24. It's kind of if you think about in the 90s or the 80s, not that I remember much of the 80s, I was very small. Guns N' Roses was it when it came to, that was it when you look at something aspirational in terms of popular music. Or even in the 90s, you had Nirvana. And 70s, of course, you had everything from Floyd to Led Zeppelin. In the 60s, you had the Beatles. if the pinnacle of popular music is Taylor Swift, who I admire as a songwriter, and I think she's an amazingly hard worker, but I'm just talking about the music here. I'm just talking about the genericness of the music, the by committee. And by the way, I have an allergy to doing things by committee because I've done things by committee my entire professional life. I know how it works. It is a soul sucking process. It's good for certain things. It's good if you want to build a road or a railway or whatever, but it's not good for art. So if that is the pinnacle of popular music in 2024, that's why I feel a little discouraged. So going back to Taylor Swift, Guitar, a retailer, nice retailer by the way. I have bought my custom 24 PH, so the one I play with actually, my live guitar with my band. I bought it from Guitar. They shipped it across to me. So these nice retailer, I think pretty large retailer in the UK, they have done a poll of the top guitarists of the last 20 years, and Taylor Swift is right up there. It's also got a couple of other names I don't recognize, but it's clearly very, very informed by the audience of the survey. Probably these are folks in the UK. Probably these are folks that could be a little bit younger as well. So, but it's interesting to see Taylor Swift featuring that high up anyway. This is not surprising to me because I've said this many times. I did make a video on this as well, that Taylor Swift is probably the guitar hero you don't want, but ultimately the world might need it. You definitely don't want Taylor Swift to be the guitar hero. She's an okay guitarist. She's probably, I don't want to say, I don't want to put any comparisons here. I mean, she can strum a few chords, but of course she has strummed chords in front of the whole world, in bigger audiences than all of us can imagine. So you can't really talk about skill. She has played guitar in front of bigger audiences. So there's that. But she's not your typical guitar hero. But the thing I'm happy about with Taylor Swift, which I keep saying, is that it may be a small part of a show, but she is still playing guitar and making the singer with the guitar archetype, that image, propagate to the next generation. You know, if you look at so many popular musicians where it's just rappers or whatever it might be, or DJs who just don't even play anything and just raise their hands or whatever, that scares the hell out of me because there is no guitar, there's nothing. At least with Taylor Swift, even if she dances for 80% of her show, she is playing guitar. Even if she's not playing it perfectly, somebody else is playing. That image is sustaining. The teenagers right now who are really into Taylor Swift will remember that as an iconic image, and that will keep the guitar going for longer. So that's why I'm happy that the most popular musician in the world is indeed somebody who is effectively at the base of it, whether it's true or not. Maybe even her songs are written by committee now. In theory, the base of it is a girl playing a guitar, acoustic guitar, and writing a song. That is the base of Taylor Swift, and then that expands into everything else. So I'm okay with it. I'm really okay with Taylor Swift being the 8th most influential guitarist of the last 20 years. I would say she's not 8th, she's probably the highest when you think about number of lives, number of people who are actually influenced. That's just my opinion. All right, folks, this has been a longish video of Ask Me Anything. I hope I did not bore you too much, and I'll see you next time.